Full card predictions for UFC Qatar. As always, you can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. Limping in after what turned into a really rough main card at UFC 322. Normally, I wouldn't take this part of the video to talk about it, but to miss on the last three, the way that those fights looked, it's just a bad read. Like, when you make these picks, you're never going to bat 1,000. But when you look at the Morales and Brady, Valentino, Wei Lee, JDM, Islam, those looked like 9 times out of 10 kind of outcomes. And it's just something that we need better reads on. For those three to have no success, that's bad. We just have to be able to identify that stuff moving forward, and that's actually why I took a little bit more time this week, because we can't miss the easy stuff this week. It got a little bit complacent, rest on my laurels, focused on speed over accuracy, so we're going to clean it up this week. With that said, top of the card, Arman Tsarukyan fighting Dan Hooker. This isn't a good fight. It's what they have to do rankings wise, keep these guys busy, have them fight people who are kind of on the same level as far as the rankings go, but look at the odds. It's not a good fight at all. Arman Tsarukyan is a huge favorite, and he should look the part this week. I expect him to run through Dan Hooker. I think he finishes Hooker inside of 3 rounds, and we've seen it a lot lately. A lot last week, the week before. The better athletes are winning these fights. The guy who you think could probably run faster, jump higher, lift more weight, flat out just winning. That's not always going to be the case, but I think that's what we see here. I think the better athlete is just going to win. And I know that Dan Hooker is supposed to be the better striker. He's probably the more willing striker, but I don't know if I would say he's the better MMA striker with the way that Arman Tsarukyan can mix it up. Dan Hooker can take a beating. He's got the length, he's got the output, he's got knees up the middle, but he's super hittable. He walks onto a lot, and he's not great at cutting off the cage either. And we like Dan Hooker on the channel. He cashed as a pretty big underdog for us against Mateusz Gamrot, looked damn good while doing it, but still, those things rang true. He got bloodied up early by Gamrot. He was not cutting off the cage all that well. He's long enough to get away with it, because when guys start to escape to their left or their right after they hit the fence, he's long enough to still catch them. But I think he's far too linear here. I think that Arman Tsarukyan's going to be able to play with angles, land something heavy on the feet, and of course on the mat, Tsarukyan is worlds ahead. And I would say the best win for Arman Tsarukyan, it's not Charles Oliveira, not because of the name, right, but because of the performance. If you look at what he did to Joel Alvarez a couple of years ago, crazy. Joel Alvarez is a monster, and Arman Tsarukyan brutalized him and got him out of there, and I think he does the same thing in this one. He always comes into these fights in incredible shape. It's got to be like at least 2 Mega Men multivitamins. I'm thinking that's the stack. Never seen him dropped before in the UFC, and you know how good he is because people spam the video of him getting caught with a hook by Joaquim Silva, and it wasn't like it was fight ending or anything. He still goes on to win that fight. But I just don't see how he loses this one. If you want to make the argument, well, Dan Hooker can throw a knee up the middle, maybe catch him on the way in. At the highest level, how often are we seeing that? Like, if Corey Sandhagen wasn't catching Merab with something like that, I don't think that Dan Hooker's catching Arman Tsarukyan with that. Again, not a great fight to make, one that they probably had to with the odds to keep the guys busy, but I think if you want to play this fight, taking Arman Tsarukyan inside the distance or going under 3.5 rounds is definitely the move this week. Give me Arman inside the distance. Next, we have Belal Muhammad fighting Ian Garry, 2 welterweights that I've been pretty high on. I wish this was 5 rounds. I feel like this is the kind of fight that deserves a 5-rounder, but it's not. And if I'm wrong, please let me know. But these are 2 winners, more importantly than anything. Like, these guys know how to win rounds, win minutes in there. And I think Gary's doing a lot of that with having probably the best fight IQ in the division. And Belal's just got that mix of relentless pressure, sticking to a good game plan that works for him. That's what made the guy a champion. And I know there's some talk in the space about how his wins aren't aging all that well, and I think it's kind of valid. Like, you look at the last 6 wins, Damian Maia, Wonderboy Thompson, Vicente Luque, Gilbert Burns, Leon Edwards. The way those guys have looked since the Belal Muhammad fight hasn't been great. That was Damian Maia's retirement fight. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's gone 1-3 since. Vicente Luque's gone 2-4 and looked like an absolute shell of himself last time out. Brady's looked good at 3-1, to be fair. Burns has gone 0-3 since then. Leon Edwards has gone 0-2 since then, getting finished in both of those. And Jack Della Maddalena just gave us one of the worst title defense performances we've ever seen. And Jack Della Maddalena is the guy that beat him for the belt in the first place. So I can understand why people might not be super high on Belal Muhammad right now. I will say, though, at the time, he was probably catching them like toward the end of their peak. So I still think it was very impressive at the time. But you can argue that he's getting to these guys right when the iron was hot. But for Ian Garry, he's not exiting his prime. He's squarely in his fighting prime. And he's a lot longer, a lot taller than Belal, more accurate with the hands as well. And some of the fastest hands at 170 pounds. I don't think he gets a lot of credit for it. At least he didn't before the Carlos Prates fight. But everybody saw the first 3 rounds of that fight and saw what this guy looks like at full potential. Am I worried about what happened at the end of that fight? Not really, because Carlos Prates hits like a truck and Belal Muhammad hits like a truck that was made by Play School. And you look at that fight against Prates before he's getting touched up in the 4th and the 5th round, the speed, the output, shot selection, angles, combinations, different level when it comes to the striking. And I think that's where he's going to win this fight, not only with that striking moving forward, applying pressure, but he fights well going backwards as well. And against a guy like Belal, who's like a shark, constantly moving forward, Garry's ability to circle out while throwing offense, he's going to be circling away, pop, 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 just going to give Bully B problems on the feet, probably bloodies him up by touching that nose over and over and over again. And we know that Belal's going to sell out to get the fight to the mat. He's going to look for that clinch, but I think that Ian Garry's got really underrated grappling as well. I think the Uchimata from that position is going to be there, maybe find himself on top. We saw Leon Edwards get to Belal Muhammad's back. We saw Leon Edwards in top position. Now, Ian Garry getting on your back is like the least dangerous thing ever, apparently, but still. But he's good at getting to that position, and that's a round winning position. So I feel like Belal's going to let rounds slip by getting touched up. He's going to be trying to get the clinch and maybe not get the takedowns that he needs. He's going to be wearing more damage, losing minutes, and as a result, loses the fight. So give me Ian Garry to win this fight by decision. Next, we're looking at a fight between Volkan Oedemir fighting Alonzo Menifield. We've talked a lot about Atomic Alonzo on the channel and the respect that we have for him and what he's done with the MMA career. Showed up in the UFC as just an athlete, just a raw ball of muscle, but has really refined his approach, has become a full-fledged mixed martial artist at the highest level, and I think the career that he's churned out is something that he should be really proud of. And now we typically pick against Alonzo Menifield though after giving him his flowers like we just did. And I was thinking about that as we were preparing for the video, right? So I'm thinking maybe we make the case for Alonzo Menifield. Let me take a look at the guys that he's fought. Let me watch some of the recent fights back. Where does Alonzo Menifield win this fight? I'll tell you right now, he doesn't. I thought there would be some value on the dog here, but I promise you there's not. I thought maybe something's clicked, maybe he's figured something out. I promise you that's not the case. It's just the guys that he's beating stink. He's losing to high-level guys, no shame in that, but the guys that he's beating, Omar Sy, young, one-dimensional grappler, French. The holy trinity of being ass. And then you look at Julius Walker, young in his career, one-dimensional grappler, UFC debut. The other holy trinity of being ass. And what did Alonzo Menifield have to do to win these fights? Just not get taken down. That's all he had to do, was just stand up. It feels like with Chris Padilla a couple weeks ago fighting Ismael Bonfim. Chris Padilla just had to stand there until Ismael Bonfim was gassed out in 7 minutes, and then Padilla ends up winning the fight. For Alonzo Menifield, it was as simple as keep the feet, and then when we're on the feet, neither of these guys can strike worth a lick. But Volkan Oedemir is going to strike with him. Volkan Oedemir is not going to look for takedowns. If he tries to take Volkan Oedemir down, he's probably not going to be able to do it. So he's going to be forced to strike with a guy who's got cleaner hands, way more power, has beaten guys better than Alonzo Menifield before. And if you want to get your pen and paper out to do a little MMA math with me, I know it's not a perfect science, but sometimes there's some truth to it. You got Alonzo Menifield fighting Carlos Ulberg, gets knocked out in 12 seconds. He lasts about as long as you or I would if we were fighting Carlos Ulberg. Scratch that. I would give myself like 18 seconds. You know, got a little bit of head movement. And he loses with like the first clean punch that Carlos Ulberg lands versus Volkan Oedemir, who went 15 minutes with Carlos Ulberg. The result is the result. He ends up losing on the scorecards basically every round, but the significant strike numbers are identical. So give me a guy who can hold his own against the best striker in the division versus a guy who has just basically put on that veteran savvy performance over two guys who maybe aren't really quite at that level yet. So I think Volkan Oedemir lands some heavy low kicks here. I think he pressures forward. I think he lands punches around the guard because that's going to be there all day against a guy like Alonzo Menifield, who's powerful, but he's not exactly twitchy. He's not the fastest guy going. So I think Volkan Oedemir is going to have fun here. I think he ends up winning by knockout. And real quick, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm. You know how the algorithm works. Next, we have Jack Hermansson fighting Muktabek Oralbai. Last week was the obliteration of unks in the UFC. Like, we've kind of learned, okay, their time has come. And Jack Hermansson at 37 years old, I don't know. The older fighters are getting fried up, and I think that might just happen to him here. Dead giveaway that somebody's grasping for straws is for him to be 37 years old and moving down in weight, because RoboCop knocks him out in the first round. Bad knockout. He was out for several minutes. It's not like this guy was undersized for 185 pounds. He fought big guys, competed with them well. He didn't need to drop down, but I think he's doing it now because getting late in his career, he feels like he's going to have that size advantage over guys. We talk about this on the channel all the time. get on a losing streak, you're aging, you drop down a weight class, it's purely desperation. And against a guy like Muktabek Orolbai, who is a madman, I don't think that's smart. Now, the pace, the wrestling, the strength coming from this guy in this division at 170 pounds, we saw that last time out against Tafik Mustafayev, where he just dominated with his grappling. He's going to be a lot to deal with for pretty much anybody in this division. And I know Jack Hermansson is somebody who you cannot take lightly on the mat. He's a great grappler. Hell, if this was just a grappling match, Jack Hermansson might win. Hermansson's not the type to be beat on the mat, but it's not impossible. We saw Roman Dolidze finish him there, and I think that Muktabek Orolbai is going to get the finish in this fight as the fight goes on. I think once you get into that late second, that third round is when he's really going to take over. Now you have to worry about Jack Hermansson jumping guillotine. He's got a great guillotine. I don't think that Muktabek Orolbai is getting finished by a guillotine, but he has to worry about it, and Hermansson can use that to get back to his feet. He can use heel hooks to get back to his feet as well, but it's about getting back to your feet 5, 6, 7 times. I think once it starts to get to that point, he's going to wilt a little bit, especially depleting himself a little bit to get down to 170 with the kind of pressure and pace that this guy puts on you. And when he gets to be more accepting of those positions, that's when the younger, stronger athlete's going to take over and find the finish here. One of the best bets on the card, in my opinion, is Muktabek Orolbai by submission. Take your money out of the 401k, take it out of grandma's purse, take the penalties, the interest, it doesn't matter. When you put it all on Muktabek Orolbai by submission, you're going to be rich. And that's probably going to be on the official betting article of the week that's linked in the description and in a pinned comment. We have 3 more official betting articles of the week before there's no more ever. But that's linked in the description and in a pinned comment. Now we have a late replacement here, Waldo Cortes-Acosta. He's fighting Shamil Gaziev this week. This was supposed to be Sergey Spivak, and I'll tell you, I have the whole write-up here about why Sergey Spivak was going to get knocked out by Gaziev this week. I was very confident. Now that Waldo's stepping in, I love me some salsa boy here. Are you kidding? You watch some of these other fighters at different weight classes. They're fighting 3, 4, 5 times a year, close fights too, not long training camps, stepping in on short notice. You worry about that. You worry how much of themselves are they leaving on the scale. Waldo Cortes-Acosta is not cutting any weight. This guy can fight and just keep fighting. So I don't think he comes into this compromised at all. I don't think he really has all that much to worry about as well. It's just a big dude that wants to strike with you. What is there to really do? What tape study is there to do? You know, it's very simple. You're going to box, and whoever outboxes the other is going to win. And I have a hard time seeing Waldo Cortes-Acosta get outboxed here. He's got the hand speed. He's showing off that power. We picked him against Ante Dalia, knocks out Ante Dalia like badly after getting eye poked, which is great to see because, you know, if you're a heavyweight and you get eye poked, you should probably continue. That's a joke. That's a joke. I'm joking. Relax. I like the long, straight punching of Gaziev, but we saw what he looked like against Rosenstruck, just a very competent striker on the feet. And I think when he finds himself in these kinds of contests, he's going to come up short. And he's got the wins over Thomas Peterson, Dontel Mays, over Martin Budai, but I don't think any of those guys are really on Waldo Cortes-Acosta's level. I think this guy's an actual player at 100, hell no, at heavyweight. I think that he really does continue to beat guys and make his way up to title contention. I don't think that Waldo Cortes-Acosta ever ends up being a champion in the division, but he is somebody who's going to continue to rise through the ranks, and whenever he gets knocked back down, he's just going to win and get back up to that spot anyway. I think he's really good. I think Shamil Gaziev has given up a little bit of speed, a little bit of athleticism. I think the short notice replacement messes with him a little bit too, because you know that the fight camp was just anti-wrestle, anti-wrestle, anti-wrestle. It wasn't Dominican fastball over the top. So I think that Salsa Boy ends up winning, hurts Gaziev at points, doesn't finish him, but he ends up winning on the cards. Give me Salsa Boy to win this fight by decision. Next we have Tagir Ulanbekov welcoming back Kyoji Horiguchi to the UFC. Now Tagir Ulanbekov, not somebody we pick against. I was told I always pick against fighters from Dagestan after picking Jack Della Maddalena, which isn't true, by the way, but I was told that. We always pick Tagir. The guy's a monster, big for 125 pounds, one of the best wrestlers in the division, of course. He can piece you up on the feet as well. He's got long, sharp, crisp boxing as well. That left cross that he throws can catch you from seemingly the other side of the octagon. Very smart on the mat as well, too. Not only when he gets takedowns, but when he is taken down, works back up to his feet effectively. He has got that nice butterfly guard. He gets wrist control immediately, sweeps guys with ease. Nasty chokes on the mat, can get to your back in a flash. The guy's a problem. And we picked him against, obviously we picked him, we always pick him, but we picked him against Azat Maxim last time out. I was not impressed in the slightest. Maxim is 1-3 in the UFC, just lost to Mitch Raposo. And we saw Tagir Ulanbekov give up a lot of takedowns and not have success with wrestling of his own and electing to strike and having to spend a lot of time getting back to his feet and trying to out-scramble Maxim in that fight. And he won, but it was one of those fights where really both guys should have lost. Let's normalize that. And you know, there's a first time for everything. I think he's at some disadvantages here. I like the urgency of Horiguchi in this fight. I think that he's going to be the one pressing the issue. I like his scrambling ability here as well. I think if guys can make Tagir get back up, if they can scramble with him, if they can show that they can hang on the mat, Tagir Ulanbekov is not going back down there. He's just not interested. He's confident in his striking, and he knows, like, hey, if I'm getting outgunned on the mat, I'll just stick to the striking, and it doesn't take much for him to do that. And the thing about Tagir Ulanbekov with the striking, while he's clean, while he can do a lot of good things there, he does concede a lot of ground. And for Kyoji Horiguchi, he's coming straight at you the whole time. And being linear like that, it's not always that helpful, especially against a guy who can move and bounce like this. But he's so violent, and he's so forward, and he's so aggressive that he's just letting his hands go. He can catch this guy. He's also going to be slamming those calf kicks, which is going to slow down the wrestling from Tagir. It's going to take a little bit off of those long punches as well. I think Kyoji Horiguchi's a little bit more wild, and I think that craziness, it might hurt him at points in this fight, but it might help him at points in this fight. It can hurt him because a guy as sharp as Tagir has good timing, can change levels, can counter strike, can make you miss, catch you, and the optics look really good, kind of Bull and Matador style. But at the same time, I think that if Kyoji Horiguchi starts landing, he's going to get big reactions, and those big reactions are going to lead to bigger moments, which leads to winning rounds. And I think that's what ends up happening here. So I like Horiguchi to make good on his UFC return. Give me Kyoji Horiguchi to win this fight by decision. Next, we're looking at a fight between Bogdan Grad. He's fighting Luke Riley. Riley, one of 6 fighters this week making their debut. Luke Riley, big deal over in Cage Warriors, young, undefeated, finishing fights, fighting out of the same gym as Paddy Pimblett and Shamrock, who's also on the card making his debut this week. I think it's good matchmaking for not only a fun fight, but to let the new guy shine here. I think that Bogdan Grad has given up a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism. Bogdan Grad leaves that chin swinging in the breeze. And I think Luke Riley's going to take his head off because of it, in true Scouser fashion, right? Just throw hooks with reckless abandon. I think the line could be wider here. The speed, the youth, the size, the punching power. You don't pass this up. This feels like a very easy one. And I think the UFC knew what they were doing here. And even if all those things don't jump off the page in round one, maybe there's some nervous energy. Maybe Bogdan Grad's able to get a takedown here and try to slow this guy down. Grad's going to have nothing by the second round. And I think that's when Luke Riley would take over. So don't overthink this one. We're not going to do it. We're going to give or take what they're giving us here. Give me Luke Riley to win in his UFC debut. Give me Riley inside the distance. Next, we're looking at Nikolas Dalby welcoming a debutant into the UFC, Saygid Izagakhmaev. He's a big favorite here over Nikolas Dalby, and he hasn't competed in MMA for a while now. Last win was over 3 years ago against the ghost of Shinya Aoki, but this guy is Team Khabib. He's got a lot of fights under his belt, very polished, very experienced at 31 years old, getting what is somewhat of a tough out in his UFC debut here against Nikolas Dalby, but that comes with a bit of an asterisk. The reason why I say that is because I don't know if Nikolas Dalby is necessarily considered a tough out at 41 years old. It's really just if you get tired against this guy, but if you don't get tired, you're athletically better than him, technically better than him. He's coming off of a knockout loss 6 months ago. As long as you don't gas, you're going to be fine. And I don't think that this guy is going to show up and gas at all. I think he's going to show that dominant Dagestani wrestling over 3 rounds. I don't think he finishes Nikolas Dalby, though. Izagakhmaev is a lot technically better, but I do think that it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't think he gets this guy out of here. I think he's going to have some debut jitters. I think he's going to start fast and slow down a bit, but not to the point where he's completely gassed and Nikolas Dalby's able to take over. But I do think that 58% takedown defense is going to look very bad for Nikolas Dalby. I think he gets taken down here, grinded out. Give me the Russian to make good on his UFC debut. Give me Saygid Izagakhmaev to win this fight by decision. Next, we have Alex Perez fighting my boy Asu. Honestly, I wanted to take Alex Perez here, and I've been an Alex Perez truther, believer, hype man for years. But the problem is the guy never fights. That's kind of a big deal. Sustained bad injury against Tatsuro Taira, and I can't take him against a spam wrestler like this. Not only because Almabayev gets to his spot often, and we've seen Perez choked out enough times to kind of draw a conclusion there, but also Asu The experience, the momentum, the wrestling, just the correct recipe to get over on Alex Perez here. And I feel like if Alex Perez is at full strength, he beats this guy easily. We've seen him defend takedowns well. We saw Muhammad Yakhyaev had to shoot like 1,000,000 takedowns to even try to get this guy to the mat. And even then, Alex Perez shot right back up to his feet. At full strength, Alex Perez is a problem. At 33 years old, he's not necessarily like a grandpa, but he's got a lot of fights. The shelf life at 125 pounds is not like a lot of these other divisions. He's been riddled with injury. There's no way he's fighting at 100% of his ability here, and I think that's going to cause him to lose in this situation. I think Asu Almabayev shines. I think Asu Almabayev does a good job of threatening the takedowns, looking for those overhand punches, and then overhands into takedowns as well, like fake shot, overhand into a shot, right? Like he's going to be able to mix it up enough. Maybe not get this guy to the mat as much as he wants, but I do think that he's going to be able to win the fight. I'll take the guy who hasn't pulled out of 3 fights a year for the last couple of years now. I don't think the fight actually happens, but if we do get there and Asu Almabayev is making the walk and Alex Perez makes the walk after, I think Asu Almabayev is a great betting opportunity. So give me Asu by decision. Next, another debutant here in Abdulrakhman. He's fighting Rafeal Cerquiera this week. I don't think Cerquiera is a UFC fighter. I know that he went the distance against Julius Walker. The jury's still out on Julius Walker as well. I think at 35 years old, being Brazilian like you're naturally just supposed to be fighting, I think being tall and athletic really helps, but I don't think this guy is a UFC fighter at all. The odds are obviously the odds. It's not like I'm saying this and he's going to get knocked down. I'm like, oh, I'm a genius. Look, he lost, but this guy's terrible. The other guy's going to win minus 1,300. Sure, wins by knockout. Let's move on. Compelling, very compelling. Bekzat Almakhan fighting Topuria light. We've seen money coming in on Topuria throughout the week, and I'm firmly on the other side. I could be wrong on this one, but based on what I'm seeing, level of competition, right? The amount of experience, what Bekzat Almakhan has done in his short UFC run. Not only did he drop Umar Nurmagomedov, but he went the full distance with him, getting the shit kicked out of him. So there's absolutely no quit in this guy. And then he goes out there and knocks out Brad Katona, which is not something that happens. This guy's got dynamite in his hands and not an ounce of quit in him. And for Topuria, I think you're paying the name tax a little bit here. This guy doesn't have that much experience. The guys that he's beating aren't that great. He's got the win over Colby Thickness, but I'm not sold on Colby Thickness at all. I think Bekzat Almakhan I think the odds should be flipped, really. I think we should see Almakhan at minus 150 here, and there should be talk about if there's any kind of value on the underdog on Topuria. But for these odds to look this way, I think Bekzat Almakhan, with that power, with that resolve, with the anti-wrestling that I think he's been working on between now and his previous 2 fights, I think there's a lot of value here. So I'm going to take Bekzat Almakhan to win this fight. I think he actually stuns this guy and gets him out of there. Give me Almakhan by knockout. Next, we have a fight between Ismail Nordiev versus Ryan Loder. This is one of my favorite lines on the card. We've talked about this recently, right? What the favorite lines look like. This is one of them. Ismail Nordiev should be able to get over on this guy. Ryan Loder's a very good wrestler, right? We saw that against Robert Valentin. We saw that on The Ultimate Fighter. Very, very good wrestler. Starting to get a little bit old, but it's only 185, so it's not like he's fighting at featherweight or something. Like 34 is fine. But he's not all that long on MMA experience, and he's a one-dimensional wrestler who, if he gets stuck on the feet, is an absolute liability. We saw that in the Asmat Bekzaev fight, and against Ismail Nordiev, the guy's just scrappy. Like, we saw him kind of get drowned by Iron Turtle, but I think that's going to happen to a lot of guys. But against Ryan Loder, he's got nothing for him when these guys are at striking range. Loder's going to be selling out for takedowns to the point where if you're Ismail Nordiev, you don't even worry about striking early. All you worry about is staying on the feet. Just stay on the feet. Don't let him take you down. Get your back up against the fence if he does push you there. Spread those legs. Get those hips low. Try to dig underhooks. Don't let him take you down, because after that first round and he's done trying to take you down and has to spend any time on the feet, he's going to get knocked out. Ismail Nordiev is a scrappy guy who's fought his way through the UFC, out of the UFC, and back. He's somebody who should definitely be on your slips this week. I think he ends up knocking this guy out. Give me Ismail Nordiev by KO. I would say round 2. This one I'm not surprised by the odds. You have Nurulo Aliyev fighting Shamrock. Shamrock's making his UFC debut. I've seen pictures of this Shamrock guy on Twitter and people being like, oh, this guy's a weirdo. I don't know who he is and why people say the things that they say, but I did go back and watch like his last 3 or 4 fights. There's some juice there. I really like the striking, especially the kicking game. Dude's got really long legs, chews up the body with those teeps, with the round kicks to the body. He can bring it up high if he wants to. He applies a lot of forward moving pressure. And once he gets his hands on guys, he's very sticky, gets to the back pretty effectively. My problem with Shamrock, though, is that he's so confident in his ability to not only get to the back, but if he loses position, get back to where he's going, that he gets stuck like coming off of the side a little bit, where he's basically like got one hook in, but then he's falling off and now he's got like a body scissor rather than having both hooks in, right? And I think that's a problem, especially against a guy like this who wants to wrestle you. Nikolas has been less than entertaining in the UFC, but that's winning MMA nowadays, right? Take the guy down, hold him down until the round's over, you end up winning the round. I mean, that's life, right? You watch a jiu-jitsu competition when it's based on points, it's the same way. Guys get taken down, they get held down, pass their guard, 2 points, and then you can sit there. It's not great, but that's the world that we live in. And I think against a guy like Shamrock, who's really selling out to get these submissions, he's very much submission over position. I don't love it. I really don't love it. Now, can you play Nikolas at minus 290? Hell no. No, I think if you make a bet here, it's got to be Shamrock, right, at plus 225. But I think that Nikolas is really just going to grind him out, take him down, hold him down. And I think the line's a bit wide. Like, you're probably going to hear people say things like Shamrock went to a split decision with this guy who's got double-digit losses, because they just look at Tapology and they didn't go back and watch the actual fight itself. But if you go back and watch the fight where he went to split decision, he won every round. I don't understand that at all. But Nikolas will be the pick this week because he's good at getting the fight to the mat. He's not going to be getting his back taken and getting choked out here. If he does get his back taken, he's just going to shuck Shamrock off to one side or the other. I've seen it now 3-4 times. It's just going to happen here. So give me Nikolas to hold him down against the fence and win a decision. And lastly, we have 2 debutantes here. These are not guys that I've done extensive research on, but what I know about Bulio is that he's winning all these fights in under 2 minutes, most of the time in under a minute. That's a hell of a storm that you're coming with early on. And I know Denzel Freeman is favored here. Denzel Freeman is going to be a bit heavier, which is cool. Denzel Freeman is somebody who has never been finished. He only has 1 loss by split decision. Really, all he's got to do is survive the first minute and a half here, and he's probably going to take over. That first 90 seconds, though, is a storm and a half. So if you've got Freeman in your tickets, you're going to be very scared. But I'll take Denzel Freeman. I'll take the American here. I think that he weathers that storm, shows that American grit, and ends up going out there and finishing this guy probably late in the first round or early in the second round after he's got nothing left. Fights out of a better gym, a gym with more UFC caliber talent. Bulio is like the grappling coach at his gym. I'm just not impressed. The guys that he's fought have been terrible. I think that Freeman's going to just weather the early storm, keep his feet, or get back to his feet and end up winning this fight again, late second or late first, early second round. Give me Denzel Freeman inside the distance. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later in the week for, no, I won't. There's no final picks, but I'll see you in a couple weeks.